Hi everyone, it's Miss Terry, and I'm here to talk about my January picks for students in grades 7 through 8. And we're going to start with some fiction, and then I'll go through some graphic novels, and then we'll do some nonfiction. This first story is called Bloom by Kenneth Opel. He always has very interesting premises for his stories, and in this one it is about the invasion of Earth, and the invasion began when it started raining, carrying in the rain seeds that have sprouted all over the planet, literally choking humanity to death. These are not friendly plants by any means. They have toxic pollen, they have Venus flytraps that can actually eat a person whole, and it's a very dangerous place to be. Well, this story focuses on 3 teens in the stories, Anya, Petra, and Sam, who seem to be immune to the plants. It doesn't affect them, and they might be the key to finding out how to save humanity before it starts raining again. A little bit on the creepy side. This is the first in a series. This next one is called The Boys in the Back Row, and this is about Matt and Eric, who have been best friends forever, really good friends. And Matt has just discovered that Eric is moving away at the end of the school year, and he's devastated. But he's determined that the two of them are going to make the most of their time together and have decided to sneak out of the class band trip in order to go visit their favorite comic book artist. Now things seem like they're gonna go fine, which as we know, it's never gonna go fine. Things are not gonna go well for the boys, especially when they're kind of their frenemy. His name is Sean, finds out about this plot to leave the band trip, and he decides that he wants in. So if you enjoy stories about friendship, if you enjoy stories where they might have a good idea, but it doesn't end up going the way that they'd like to, you'd enjoy The Boys in the Back Row. Running is the story about a Cuban-American young lady. Her name is Mary Ruiz, and she has always been a very dutiful daughter. Her dad has been a senator for a long time, but now he has decided to run for president. And this is gonna change things for Mary and her family, especially when she finds out that some of the policies that her dad supports is not something that she agrees with. And there are a lot of kids at school who also don't agree with what her father is doing. And she decides that she's gonna have to take a stand and hopefully change her father's mind before he becomes president. Very, very timely fiction book with everything that's been going on in our world. And how do you stand up to your family and friends if they don't believe the things that you believe? Called Running. This next one is called Dress Coded, and this is a story about a girl named Molly and her school, Fisher Middle School, that has kind of a very strict principal, Dr. Couchman, and their school has a very strict dress code that really targets women, young ladies, rather than the boys at school. And the girls are constantly being pulled aside and being made to feel really awful about the things that they are wearing. Well, Molly decides that she's going to rebel in the way that she feels comfortable, and she starts a podcast that talks about some of the unfairness of the dress code rule. And little does she realize that this is going to start a movement at her school to get the dress code thrown out. So if you like activism, you definitely will enjoy this. If you kind of like those girl power books, you also will enjoy this. And it's also really just a good middle school read about what it's like to be in middle school. It's called Dress Coded. This next one is a sci-fi adventure called The Loop. It is definitely in the dystopian category. I know that you've been, the 8th graders have been reading dystopian fiction, but this is a story about a boy named Luca, and in his world, the smallest infraction can actually send you to prison and sent to death row. There's very little leniency when you've done anything wrong. So he's currently on death row, and one of the things that the prisoners can do to kind of hold off their execution is to agree to become kind of like lab rats in this very highly advanced technological world, so they can get these almost like extra powers through technology. So the prisoners get experimented on by the government. Well, it doesn't take long before Luca realizes that something is not right at the prison, and even worse, things are not right outside of the prison, and he sees an opportunity to escape, and he decides that he's going to try for it. This is very action-packed. It does have a little bit of violence in there, so be prepared for that. But if you like stories about the future where things aren't going so well, you would definitely enjoy The Loop. This next one is called The Canyon's Edge, and this is about a girl named Nora. And Nora and her dad are struggling. Her mother was killed in a kind of a bizarre restaurant shooting and is gone. And her dad have decided that they're going to go hiking in the canyons and go mountain climbing and all that, just kind of to deal with some of their grief and see if they can reconnect together. When they hit a flash flood and Nora's dad gets swept away from her and she's left all by herself. And now she has to try to figure out what happened to her dad. How is she going to survive in the canyons without him? And so it's really a survival story as she's trying to get back to civilization, and she's also trying to find her dad, and then she's also working through the grief of losing her mother. So that is called The Canyon's Edge. A little bit of a tearjerker for this one. This next one is called Titans. This is a great read-alike if you enjoy things like The Lightning Thief or if you like mythology. And it's been 15 years since Olympus has fallen, actually. And the Titans and the Olympians have kind of a little bit of a peaceful, they've kind of, stopped. Let's try not to fight anymore. They're all living on Titus. All of the adults have decided that the kids are going to have to learn to get along, so they send them all to the same school. And this is about a girl named Astrea, and she actually has one of Pegasus's cloned granddaughters, Zephyr. So she has this horse as her best friend, and she's having some trouble at school. She doesn't feel like she quite fits in, is kind of having trouble finding a friend group. When she discovers a plot to really have a hostile takeover of Titus, and she thinks that she might be able to help stop it. That's where Jake comes in, and Jake is actually a human being who's come from Earth. He has no idea how he's made it to Titus or what role he's going to play in this war that is coming. This is the first in the series. The second one is also already out. This next one is called Bad Best Friend, and this is about Nikki. And Nikki and Ava, one day they're in gym class, and the gym teacher says, go stand next to your best friend. Well, Nikki and Ava have been best friends forever, but on that day, Ava ends up going to stand closer to a different girl named Brittany, and this just destroys Nikki's world. She had no idea this was coming. She thought Ava was her best friend, and then it turns out that maybe Ava is not so great a friend after all. She's also having some trouble at home. Her brother is having a lot of problems, and her mom is kind of denying that anything is going wrong. And now Nikki is being asked to do more and more. And at the same time, she also has a friend who's a boy that she's been friends with for quite a while, but now he's kind of suddenly cute, and she's trying to decide if she just likes him or if she likes him. And then something happens at a party that she's not really happy about, and it kind of just changes everything once again. So if you like stories of friendship, you'll enjoy this. If you like stories of middle school drama, you will enjoy this. It's also a really great family story. So this is called Bad Best Friend. Silver Batol and the Water Dragon Races is another beginning fantasy series, and this one is about water dragons and a girl named Silver Batol who she lives on a desert planet. There is a water area where they race water dragons, and that's what she really wants to be. She wants to be a racer. Her parents are like, no way, it's too dangerous, you need to go into the family business and just become a jeweler, but she doesn't like that. And then she finds out that her favorite idol water dragon racer is coming to her planet, and she decides that she's going to sneak away to go meet her, and things go horribly wrong, and she ends up getting swept up in a stolen baby water dragon's rescue, goes off planet, and realizes that this baby dragon is almost a mythical creature that's possible that it can swim and fly, and doesn't just have to stay in the water, and this will change everything for their planet. If you like dragon stories, you probably will really enjoy this. If you just like fantasy creatures, this is also a good story. Also very action-packed. This next one is the last fiction one I'm going to talk about is called Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera, and this is about twin brothers Emil and Brighton, and in their world, they live in New York City. There are celestials who have innate magic, and then there are specters who can take blood from celestials in order to work their own magic. Well, Brighton is really hoping that when he turns 18, he will come into some magic, because that's kind of how the magic just suddenly appears when you turn 18. But it's not Brighton who gets the magic. It ends up being Emil, and it's not celestial magic. It's actually a specter magic. He has this phoenix power that if he takes blood from celestials, he can do amazing things. Well, he wants nothing to do with this, but this is a very powerful gift that he has, and there are others who want it. So if you like fantasy stories, you'll enjoy Infinity Sun. Now let's talk about some of the graphic novels that I have. This first one is by Cami Garcia. This one is one of the Teen Titans series. This is about Raven. Raven is 17 years old. She's recently been in an accident that actually took the life of her foster mother, as well as her memory. She has no memory of what has happened. She's living in a new foster home in a new town, really kind of hoping that she can forget some of the sadness that has been in her life, when some strange things start happening and she realizes that she might not be able to escape her past after all. This is definitely in the superhero genre, so if you enjoy superhero stories, you're going to enjoy Raven, especially if you like superheroes like the X-Men series. This next one is also a superhero one. This one is called Anti-Hero, and it's about two girls, Piper and Sloane. And Piper is inhumanly strong, and she's hoping to use that to become a hero. And Sloane is a genius, such a genius that her evil grandfather wants to use that genius in order to steal things. She's not so sure that that's what she wants to do, but when the two of them meet, they end up accidentally touching a device that makes them switch bodies. And now they have to figure out what they're going to do in order to get back to where they want to be. Kind of a fun, Freaky Friday type premise. This next one is called Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy. It's a graphic novel. It's a modern retelling of the Little Women story, which is about the March sisters. And in this version, they are a part of a blended family. Their dad is overseas. He's in the military. Mom's having a little bit of trouble making ends meet, so all the girls decide that they're going to pitch in, and they're kind of working overtime. But it's also filled with the drama of teenage girls, first loves, and all of those kind of things. So if you enjoy stories like Smile and Guts, you probably will enjoy Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy. And maybe you might be inspired to read the actual version of Little Women or see one of the movies. There's a million versions of the movies. One just came out not too long ago. This next one is called The Lost Carnival. This is a Dick Grayson graphic novel, which is also of the superhero genre. And this is about Dick Grayson, and he actually is a part of a family that they're trapeze artists, and they've kind of been going around with this carnival that's not doing very well. He's actually kind of tired of being a trapeze artist when a new carnival comes to town called the Lost Carnival, and he meets a girl there, Luciana. But there's something almost magical about this carnival, and I'm not necessarily sure it's a positive magic. And Dick has to decide if he's going to be loyal to his family, is he going to be loyal to love, and is that love even real, or is it something entirely different? So that's the Lost Carnival. Be Prepared is a fun story about a girl named Vera. She is Russian, and her mom does not have a lot of money, but she desperately wants to go to camp. And so her mom decides to send her to Russian camp, which she thinks will be fun, but it turns out to be just horrible. She ends up in a cabin with girls that are 5 years older than her, so she feels very out of place. There's no plumbing, there's no electricity. The stories about the outhouses, oh, yuck, 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 yuck. But Vera does kind of come into her own while she's away at camp. If you like stories about young girls trying to find their way, you definitely would enjoy this. This next one is actually a Japanese manga. This one is called, I'm gonna butcher the name of this, Kokuryo, Bed and Breakfast for Spirits. And this is about a girl named Io whose grandfather has passed away, leaving behind a huge debt to the spirit world. And so Io has two choices. She can marry the head of the inn in the spirit world, or she can basically get eaten by demons. Well, she doesn't like any of those options. She doesn't really want to marry this guy either. So she decides that she will work off her grandfather's debt instead by working at the inn, the bed and breakfast. Now, the owner of the inn says, well, fine, if you don't want to marry me, that's fine. You can work off this debt, but I can't guarantee that you won't get eaten by the demons. If they decide they don't like you, they're just going to eat you. And she's like, well, I'll take my chances because I'm not marrying you. And this is the first in the series. There's quite a few in there. And then the last graphic novel I'm going to talk about today is called the Inkberg Enigma, and it is about Miro and Zia, and they live on the island of Aurora. That seems like a pretty boring place. Zia always lives behind her camera. Miro is kind of a modern day Bilbo Baggins. He just, he sells things out of his attic in order to support his book habit. He just wants to kind of stay home, be safe, not do anything exciting. Well, one day they're out and about and they see a strange sight, a fisherman being rushed into the fish processing plant wrapped in ginormous tentacles. You can kind of see in her camera that the tentacles are there. And Zia is captivated by this and she's like, this is a mystery. We need to figure out what is going on. And it relates back to the history of their island. So it's the Inkberg Enigma. All right, so those are the fiction titles and graphic novels. Let's talk about nonfiction. This first one is a story of World War II. This one is called Attacked at Sea. It takes place in 1942 off the coast of New Orleans, about a freighter that's being targeted by a German U-boat. And unfortunately, it wasn't just military people on board the freighter. There actually was a family, the Downs family. It had a mom, dad, 2 kids. When the German U-boat attacks, they get torpedoed and the family gets thrown into the ocean. And this is the story of their heroic rescue and what it was like to battle sharks, hypothermia, very scary event for this family. But this is the true story of their survival, Attacked at Sea. This next one is called Helen Skeleton's Wild Girl, How to Have Incredible Outdoor Adventures. And these are the stories of Helen's adventures outdoors, but then she also gives like tips and ideas for girls who are interested in going outdoors as well. And honestly, boys could read this too and they would probably very much enjoy it. So it looks at all of the adventures that she's had: rock climbing, skiing, going on safari, and what kind of things you need if you're going to attempt doing these kind of things on your own. So that is called Wild Girl. Okay. This next one is another story of war. This one is called Blood and Germs, and this is the Civil War battle against wounds and disease. So the Civil War was horrifically bloody. Over 600,000 Americans were killed, but a lot of them died because of what we didn't know about medical science. And so this looks at what kind of medical advances were made during the Civil War that changed the course of medicine, like learning that you have to keep things clean, and all of those. The ambulance service came out of this time, and so it looks at what happened to soldiers on the battlefield. I'm not gonna lie, this is a little bit on the gory side. There's a lot of blood and guts in here. But it also is really a look at medical history as well. So if you like books like that, you'll enjoy that. But it also, if you like the Civil War era, you will enjoy that as well. So that's Blood and Germs. This next one is a new drawing book. It's called The Master Guide to Drawing Anime Romance. So if you're a big manga fan and you're interested in learning how to do some of your own drawing, this one focuses specifically on romance and how to draw characters who are kissing or hugging and things like that. So it has step-by-step instructions on how to do that. Race Through the Skies is the story of the week that the world learned to fly. Now, the Wright brothers in 1903, they did do 4 successful flights. It was their first flights, but that's not really when aviation kind of took off. What actually happened, it was almost 5 years later after those first 4 initial flights, when the Wright brothers took their planes to Europe to kind of show them off. And who actually started the aviation buzz were champagne companies that thought, people are going to go crazy over this. Let's have this week-long party and we'll sell lots of champagne. And that's exactly what happened. And that's when aviation kind of blew up and everybody was interested. So that's Race Through the Skies, inspired by champagne. Kind of an interesting tidbit of history I did not even know. This next one is called Beyond Words. This is What Wolves and Dogs Think and Feel, and this is a look at the wolf population at Yellowstone Park, and it really looks at how wolves and dogs are very different, but how they're also very similar, not only to each other, but also to human beings, and why we're able to communicate so effectively with them. So if you love dogs, if you love wolves, you're definitely going to enjoy this story. And then the last nonfiction I'm going to talk about today is called Climate Emergency Atlas. This is definitely a big book. You can see it's almost definitely bigger than my head. And this is a very graphic look at the climate emergency. I really like how this book is broken down. It looks at what is going on, what is the emergency, what probably caused it, why we need to even care about it, and then what maybe we can do. So if you're interested in the environment, if you're interested in making some changes in your own life and maybe in the world itself, you definitely would enjoy this book. If you just want to kind of, why everybody keeps talking about it, but I don't really understand what's happening, this is a very good introduction to what is happening to our environment on this planet. Okay, so I hope you enjoy these books. Thanks.